Welcome to a muzzled chat with the Forgotten Soldiers. I want to welcome John and Scott. You are some of my favorite peeps these days because everything you're doing on behalf of your countrymen, out of love for all God's children, is crucial. In fact, I'm quite frustrated. I'll just admit right out the gate. And folks, don't go anywhere. We have a lot to share with you. But the lack of response from the people, to me, becomes proof as to how diminished effectively like we have become. And we must gain that resilience back because we all have a responsibility politically and just kind of to add input on how things operate in this country so we're not being poisoned from all these different angles, intentionally diminishing our light, which I believe is what's led people in the lack of support. Men like this deserve and need to become effective with what they're doing. And just to say they're showing up selflessly, they're not even monetized on Rumble or anything. They're literally just doing this in their spare time, which isn't much because they're both full-time, like working men, and they have a lot to do. So anyway, I'm just so excited to connect with you guys. If you want to do an intro before I play and plug your guys' podcast, I give you the floor. Go for it, Scott. An introduction.
I'm back.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah, take a break real quick.
He keeps fooling us, folks, as though, yeah, we're going to organize this thing, and then I'm going to
You guys hear me good?
Yeah, we got you. Mm-hmm.
Hey, I wasn't ready. I'm ready now. All right. How's everybody doing? Sergeant First Class, involuntarily separated, John DeLarme. All right. We're kicking it off with the Forgotten Soldiers and a muzzled chat in a collaboration. I got Scott Lauterball. What's up, Scott?
What's going on? It's good to be with y'all again. As always.
Always. It's exciting.
We might have a little lacking going on between talking and the responses, but that's all right. About to go into the let me real quick. Today, before you press play, James.
Yes, sir.
Today on the Forgotten Soldiers, again, we're doing a collaboration with Unmuzzled Chat. All right, but basically, I asked James just a few days ago if he was wanting to come on my show to discuss COVID-19. So basically, where he was when it came up, what he's seen around him, and then also when he started waking up to the fact, probably all the propaganda that was going on, and kind of how you woken up in that process, what you've seen, within your bubble, within your area, wherever you were going, headed to, and then as the injections started coming out, what kind of woke you up to the fact that those were bioweapons, and how they may have affected you or people around you. So that's what we really want to talk about today, and then obviously we'll bring up some other stuff as we go along. So let's do the intro to the Forgotten Soldiers, and then we'll get kicked off.
Perfect. Oh, did it not keep the time?
And then we'll talk about what we had just mentioned a minute ago with you, Scott, and then also...
All right. That's a freaking awesome.
Wrap it up right there, James. Oh, yeah.
Like,
put a lot of time and effort in that video.
Teach me, brother. Teach me. Clearly, we could step up our game here. I just got a fun little push button for mine.
I'll tell you a little story about that video then, real quick. Before we get started. It took me all day to put this video together, and I was reaching out to Mark Bashaw, Ted Macy, Scott, and just trying to get some of their clips together, pictures and whatnot, and put them in here and try and all day it took me to work on this thing. And then I got some audio that I got, and just like some army marching stuff, right? Some old school like Civil War like drum beating and like little pipe, I guess, whistle blowing things. And then so I put it all together and I sent it out to the guys that were in the video, and I put in the video. I was like, hey, just give me some feedback. Let me know what you think. Everybody was like, oh yeah, that's good. It's awesome. Blah, blah, good stuff. And then Mark, the Shaw, was like, that music's fucking stupid. So, all right, cool. I can take the criticism, right? So, but the awesome thing about Mark, right? Mark doesn't just tell you suck at something, right? What he does is he say, hey, this isn't good. Try this. He'll give you a suggestion and throw something at you and say, check this out, right? Because he comes with answers, right? He doesn't just throw you down and go figure it out yourself. He said, try this one. Like, all right, let me see. So that's the audio that Mark sent me to plug in. So I put it in there, played it, sent it back out, and everybody was like on point, and that was it. There it is.
Well, it fires me up
Thank
because
you, Mark.
you give all these links and sources throughout that intro, and how it kind of like ramps up. It kind of helps ignite. It's very positive. Yeah, fires me up. Anyway, well, you kind of laid it out before. Go ahead.
I was going to say we're opening up to not just the military, but civilians as well. And so you'll see my emails in there. You'll see Scott's emails, X, Facebook, whatever. So whatever way you can reach out to us if you want to get on the show,
yes.
We'll get in contact with me or Scott. We'll talk to you about it a little bit offhand, and then we'll set something up and we'll get you on. It's just good to tell your story and share it, just like James is going to do here today. That way other people can see it, listen to it, understand it, and hopefully relate to it, and then understand that we're being attacked by a bioweapon. So that's what it is.
I challenge all my listeners to reach out to these gentlemen, whether you yourself have your story to share or you know of someone, because I'll be honest with y'all, regarding the whole COVID, mine's relatively, I'd venture to say normal, like what the majority of more so Americans experienced during that tyrannical pandemic. But I mean, if you want me to just run with it, fellas, I'll start off with my Lyme disease, an old school bioweapon becoming a blessing going into the pandemic, even pre-pandemic, because what that taught me and exposed to me is that we've been blindly entrusting in the Western medicine infrastructure, white lab coats, family doctors, as though they provided the only real solutions regarding our health. And it even does date back prior to me a bit too, and honing in on that Lyme positive diagnosis. I've seen it even within my own father and other individuals in life that actually developed cancers and things of that nature in their body, and Western medicine was entirely failing them time and time and time again. And that's similar to my Lyme walk. And I entrusted what they were sharing with me to a huge level. But until I walked the walk myself of Western medicine failing me, it wasn't until then it really broke through. So that's something interesting. Why is it that we can't really absorb through what we're seeing and hearing around us, that we're more so stubborn that we have to walk it ourselves to really realize? So I truly feel that more so proves to an extent how diminished we have been, because the more we can acknowledge really what's going on, then we can more so be the solutions we need, and more so immediately than futuristically. So I digress. So when everything tyrannical started happening, I even had individuals at the time. I was right here in Arizona. My company and what I was doing, kind of more so independent contract work. I had a commercial gig at the time. I had some residential property projects I was doing as well. And I started hearing from individuals in my life so I didn't even know right away the threat of this corona. And, oh yeah, have you not been in a grocery store for a while? So even when it came to the whole toilet paper shortage, I had individuals reaching out to me knowing how disconnected I was, even though I was listening to a plethora of podcasts, mostly at that time, Joe Rogan. And that shifted quickly when he wasn't providing the valuable information I needed. I actually found a lot of his stances, even though he's been a very huge blessing for humanity, it was a more so cowardice stance. He wasn't pushing against any of these narratives and having like real doctors on to sound the alarm, and it could have led to a lot of benefits and saved countless lives. But so I guess I was just blessed with already questioning things, not trusting the infrastructure and systems that have been built out. So when I started hearing all of these things and potential shutdowns and then all these crazy mandates that infringed upon our most basic human rights, civil rights, Bill of Rights, constitutional rights, God-given rights, and how quickly we the people were willing to accept these as law and not push against it. It's like the media became so effective, and the talking heads, they had a big engine created, a propaganda engine to stand up this pandemic. So luckily I had good people in my life that were feeding me good information, and it just magnified the importance of finding other patriots. So I started listening to like Dave from X22 Report early on. He was a big one. It wasn't too long after that I started onboarding Stu Peters and others. But
hey, James, real quick.
Yes. Are you there?
Fizzling out.
There's a lot of lagging going on. I don't know if you guys can see it on your side. Maybe make sure there's not a lot of other screens or windows open, and make sure everything else is closed off.
I'll cancel out more for sure. Let me do
Maybe
that.
it'll help out a little bit.
I have a whole bunch of windows open. Well, let me know if it continues. Okay.
It should be good right now.
We might be good.
Yep.
So I could see through the talking heads' lies, essentially, and that was a huge blessing. So it led me to tuning into more on Telegram and then Parler. In fact, I was ecstatic about Parler. I loved the interface of Parler, how user-friendly. I was like, it became a competitor to all the major social media platforms, including Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. And you could see what a threat that posed to their pandemic with the information that was coming out immediately. As soon as we started masking, there were scientists and doctors literally giving out like information and studies where just the simple fact that mask material itself is measured in millimeters, and we're talking about, let's say, a respiratory virus, if that's what it was. I like to challenge all that because I don't believe we've gotten to the bottom of what actually was making us sick. But anyway, we'll get into that because the PCR testing is what stood up this pandemic amongst all the talking heads. So
that's what it was.
Is someone playing?
I like to challenge all.
Did you click on volume over there, John? I'm not resilient enough to talk over myself.
Playing.
He's got it.
He's got it?
Yeah.
Okay. I hope. So it's just crazy because if you actually think about it and you don't drink the Kool-Aid and you use some rational thinking, critical thinking skills, that
did you click on volume over there, John?
It's still playing, John. Mr. Close out Windows. Why don't you close that one? Whatever's throwing me off my game over here. I'm just playing.
I'm ruining the whole thing.
No, you're totally good, bro. We're human. Guys, this is the most raw, authentic type of podcasting there is. Taking away the editorial skills, manipulating, I mean, the potential of manipulating episodes. This is as raw and authentic as it gets. Yep. And I want to praise you, gentlemen, for accepting this type of live communications. So, you know what? I don't mean to get too much into the weeds, but I want to point out some important parts. You can't just sit there and listen over and over. This is how effective their machine was, their war machine against we the people and the control over information. It's no secret. You control the information, you can control the masses. And this pandemic is a prime example of exactly that. So in this information age, we cannot, in a singular episode, put enough emphasis as to how important and crucial it is we source our information. So anyway, regarding those masks, I knew right away it was a bunch of hocus pocus, and we're emotional beings. And to cover our faces and we read facial expressions and the impact that was going to have, especially on our children, it far outweighed in a negative way any potential positive. But the simple fact is measured in millimeters versus nanometers. Do you gentlemen know the difference between a millimeter and a nanometer? It's almost 1,000,000 times difference. So I like the analogy. That's essentially trying to stop mosquitoes from coming in your backyard by erecting a chain link fence. In fact, that's not even 1,000,000 times difference. The reality of 1,000,000 times is you'd be able to drive a semi-truck, one of your semi-trucks drawn right through one of those chain links. That's more like 1,000,000 times difference. It's absolutely ludicrous. And then if people actually looked at the studies of individuals that would take a mask off of a child after 20 minutes of wearing it and put it under a microscope, and you literally would see live little bacteria, poop particles, all sorts of nasty things on there, you would not put that on your child's face. So there's so much information like this that came out. So I really feel for those that weren't on free speech platforms to absorb this, because then you could see the deceiving and the lies and how they were standing all this up, because the PCR test was defective in and of itself. There were groups of individuals, as soon as that came out and became available, that were testing tap water, false positive. They were testing, all these things like animals and fruits, false positive. Some didn't even open the dang package, sent it in, and it came back positive. So there was negative efficacy, and that in and of itself should have stopped it in its tracks. But somehow, once again, by the control of information, by the censorship on Facebook and Twitter at the time and the major platforms, they were able to gain enough momentum that they acted out as much tyranny as they could, shutdowns included, 6 foot safe insanity, the masking insanity. So for me personally here in Arizona, when it came to going into certain grocery stores, yeah, I got kicked out because I would not wear a dang mask. I knew better. I was like, this is fear delusion tactics. Like everyone's getting wrapped up into it. And it saddened my heart to see individuals just play along, even though a lot of them didn't even believe in it. They did it anyways because they didn't want to face that ridicule. They didn't want to face that, being kicked out type of thing. But I even had family members in certain occasions or restaurants. We even did a business convention thing in Las Vegas where they were masked Nazis. I'm not even lying. Like they were insanely strict. So I would just pull it down and I'd constantly have a drink, even at the point like, oh my gosh, like I'm sitting there drinking more than I should, even at that point, just to fend off the freaking Nazis. It's probably a bad word for it, but really it's just the tyranny. And so even the family members essentially like started hitting me with, why are you doing this? Why are you being so confrontational? Really blew my mind. And I'm like, don't you see what this is leading to? It's not going to stop here. They're going to impose more and more and more. And then you could see that with the weaponization of a shot, with the weaponization of the next booster and vaccine passports. They would have continued all that type of tyranny. We'd have vaccine passports. We'd have still to this day probably shutdowns and a full tyrannical control. But luckily, the general population finally got it to a point they couldn't continue that type of tyranny. So luckily, we finally got to that kind of awakening because we weren't seeing people die in the streets. And that's the thing for me. I was utilizing my own brain. I was looking and assessing the situation with what I saw. And I didn't see anyone drop in the store. I didn't see anyone dying on the streets. I heard of no one dying in their beds. And then I started hearing the stats where literally a motorcyclist got ran over by a truck and his death got rolled into as a COVID death. It's like, what? His body was broken. Never throughout history.
Hey, James.
Yeah. Am I lagging?
Hey, go ahead and bring Lucas in, man.
Oh, Lucas is here. Let's do it.
Hey,
welcome, Lucas.
How's it going, everyone?
What's up, Luke?
Dude, that's a cool background you got there, brother.
Hey, so, hey,
I'm getting too detailed here, huh?
To comment on that. No, you're good, man. To comment on that piece. So yeah, we didn't see a lot of bodies or anything going on. But so on the flip side of that, when I interviewed Eric, who was he was in the AstraZeneca. He was working in New York at the time, and he was making deliveries and whatnot. He's in the street. Now that was due to COVID or not, I don't know. It could have. They had what they were doing with all those bodies once they, murdered them or not. So, like, he did see, dead bodies in the street from what he told me. So, it's a little bit different for everybody, and I guess depending on where you're at in the United States. But he did see that, and I didn't see it. I was actually in Arizona when it kicked off, and then I went back to South Carolina. I was a drill sergeant at the time, and I didn't see anything like that from Arizona to South Carolina. I didn't see any of that either. So,
Yeah.
but I wasn't up in New York either. It was just something I wanted to mention.
Yeah, I mean, without, we could have more so got to the bottom and the truth as to what was happening there. I feel for those that were like homeless and living on the streets and things of that nature. It's a rougher lifestyle. Obviously there is a little more death to that type of living and drugging and whatever else is involved there. So whether once again that was a motorcyclist getting hit by a truck kind of deemed as COVID, whether it was the actual truth as to what was going on or not. You brought up poisoning. It's one of those things we will never actually know unless we rule out the corruption. Okay. Like that's where enough people in the know, we could have shut down the talking heads and institutions that were ramping up the deaths. And then once, like, for example, the murderous protocols became effective in hospitals. Like I could pull up the screen. Let's do this real quick. So, all right. Everyone check out militaryaccountability.net. That's not why I clicked on here, but that right here, this petition, what these men have established.
Do it anyway.
Yeah, it's a single page. It's worth a read, and this is building momentum that we all need. My question to all the listeners in this very moment, do you value your existence here? Do you value
since you brought this up, brother?
What's that?
Since you brought it up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, since you brought it up, the military accountability is not. It is for the military, but it actually trickles down to the civilian side of the house because the military pushed it out the way they did through the military illegally. Actually set the stage for the rest of the United States as well. So once we start finding the corruption within the military, that's going to trickle back into, the rest of, as we know, it was a whole worldwide event.
What
so it's really
better
organization? For the civilian
organization
population and everybody else, the citizens, I should say, to get behind the Declaration for Military Accountability and do that.
That could be a very clear-cut path to real solutions, real organization, because what better organization than the actual military itself to have it operate by it was designed, to have those men fulfill their oath, just like all three of you gentlemen have. So what I wanted to bring up was right here through the NIH. Okay. And even pre-chat, this was kind of crazy.
That's why we're lagging. So 50 things open on there.
Is that what's going on? Dude, there's powerful stuff to go over. Look at the preparations. Yeah. We don't mess around here on a muzzle chat. Is it still lagging? All right, I'll close this one. A history. Military's role in bio.
It is a little bit.
All right, we'll close some of this out.
It's making it a little difficult to follow along for myself.
All right, I'll close this one in just a second. But as I was touching on pre-show with Scott,
I do want to talk about
Go ahead. Talk about.
He's lagging now. Again.
Am I lagging?
No.
Yeah, some of the a little bit of everybody. The incentivizing that was going on that you seen in Arizona. As far as what the government was offering individuals to get the vaccine, that you've seen and noticed as well.
Well, specifically in Arizona, I mean, I know I have family members and other friends of mine that were in the National Guard, and I know ones that all the threats fell empty and they stood their ground. And then I know individuals that, they're potentially going to get hit with felony charges, things of that nature. So they caved, and they're excusing. I'm not here to express judgment. I'm just here to talk about the reality of the situation. And with what I knew, I was warning everyone I could, like, seriously, it's an over my dead body type of situation when it came to the vaccine rollout. But if you are questioning it ever, reach out to me. I got links and information to send your way that I had accumulated pre the rollout even happening. Okay. And that information was available to everyone, but we didn't understand how threatening these things were. So once again, I'm not here to cast stones to any individual, but so there was so many tactics. It initially, you could see the talking eggs. You could see individuals as to how they preyed on people's hearts from, oh, this holiday season type of thing. If you care about grandma, if you care about, the infants, if you care about, you could just see all the different tactics. I don't know specifically. I mean, I would hear about from military and then certain places of work, whether I knew some pilots that were heavily pressured, and then the health service kind of medical field was heavily pressured. And it's just ludicrous.
We've seen medical personnel that were losing their licenses. That was also happening in Arizona? And then was there any financial incentives or anything like that? Because I heard
yes,
they were giving homeless people I think it was like $100 to get vaccinated.
Wow.
There was the lotto. They would enter you in the lotto. Did you hear any stuff like that?
I should close this out. Yeah, I heard some things like that. I myself didn't go out to seek, this reward for this thing, because I knew this thing was under the guise of supposedly being for your health and good. I knew it was intended for the opposite of what they were projecting. So I personally didn't look into everything that was happening locally, but yeah, it seemed like there was bribing, there was threats, there was, and it just kind of depended on almost your place of work, what you were engaged in your life. But I could see, I'm probably getting more in the depths of what information I came across there, because do I pull that back up, or do you want to direct the conversation differently, John? Because I'm probably just getting lost in the weeds at this point on just.
You're good, man. We'll just keep pushing forward.
Okay.
The as far as so you didn't take the shot initially. What was your reason for that? I know you got Lyme disease and you were fighting that, and you had issues with the medical side, and you had issues trusting your doctors and medical professionals because of that whole situation that you have to live with the rest of your life. What was the red flag for you when the vaccine, it came out EUA initially? How skeptical were you because it was an EUA? I guess we'll start there.
So it just was like, in my eyes, it was already a man-made pandemic at that point, even before the vaccine. So I was like, what do we need a vaccine? What is the vaccine even addressing? Define even COVID early on, because I knew the PCR testing was defective. So it's like, what is this providing? It's experimental and that's putting it lightly. That's putting it easy, because when you really looked into, and there were individuals that started at that point looking into the patents, and there was a lot of alarming things, like with 666 and Luciferian race, literally classifications and verbiage in the patents behind this very shot that spoke out that it, like, some of the components in there were bio warfare. So I started going down, let's just suppose, those rabbit holes before it was even really available for the masses, because the masking I knew was a joke, the 6 foot safe was a joke. I could see all the tyranny, and with my Lyme doctors, so even with my lack of trust in the institutions, I established relations with more so naturopathic doctors that are way more educated than just your family physician MD. They have the MD and beyond, more so like triple the length of education, and they've even spoke out as though they themselves it had to get into a remissive state to their indoctrination and get back to the roots of the issues and practicing medicine and stepping out of big pharma, separating from the insurance institutions, because that's a layer of corruption that puts restrictions on actually practicing medicine. So they end up more so naturopathic. And they themselves, from their research, were warning patients and going against the grain. And a lot of their licensing and such was becoming threatened. They couldn't be too vocal about it, but they could tell, the trusting patients they had coming in seeking knowledge. So they would share very alarming things about it, but they also would say, why do we need a vaccine when we are entirely effective with ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine? There's a reason why the talking heads in this war machine of information got, the green light on demonizing real solutions, because the reality of it is they couldn't have had a vaccine rollout under emergency use under a pandemic by whatever, with actual viable solutions. And these doctors were sharing their stats with me that, they had more so the high risk patients. They were more so elderly. They specialized with cancer patients, and all of them were thriving. None of them ended up hospitalized. So basic things, right? And that's one of the things none of the talking heads even talked about. Like, talk about discernment, gut instinct. If they genuinely cared about us, they would have said, hey, look, fitness is important, nutrition's important, vitamins, things of that nature. And they wouldn't have demonized already an FDA approved ivermectin that had an impeccable track record with literally no adverse effects. There's some reported, but it is less than your typical aspirins and Tylenols. So I just knew already. So when it rolled out, I just was advocating everyone to do research and not essentially believe all the propaganda and the real lies. And it was a hard time to really then more so speak out on
pause
it
there
than
real
it is
quick,
now.
then.
Okay.
So that's a thing too. You mentioned being physically fit. You mentioned natural medicines, I guess natural herb supplements, getting in shape, if you would say vitamin D through the sun, hydroxychloroquine, other things that obviously will work. Something else was if you already caught the virus, you have natural immunity. Like, all these things were being suppressed in that fashion as well.
Yes.
So those are things they kind of overlooked and ignored. And it was more like, hey, the vaccine is a one solution fits all, which we know is BS, right?
Yes.
So,
hey James,
I just want to mention that, but let's go. Let's bring Lucas into the conversation.
Yeah, bring Lucas in.
All right. I guess I'll start out with.
Hey, brother, what's up, Lucas?
Can everyone hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
So what?
Sweet.
Yeah, do it, bro.
Yeah, the map behind me, if you're wondering what this is exactly, this is the last map in the prior election between Biden and Trump by counties. So you can see the blue counties versus the red counties, and you can see this line that I kind of drew surrounding the red counties. And so this is where the political divide is within the country, you know, red versus blue, if you believe in that. Some people believe it's a unite party, but I mean, if you're talking about what happened, Trump always likes to talk about the two greatest presidents besides himself. So that would be George Washington and Abraham Lincoln. And so he always references those two presidents as the greatest presidents. And of course, he's the third one. So, but when you look at those presidents, George Washington.
What about Biden, bro?
Biden is he's in a retirement home.
I'm just playing, man. Don't even go there.
Yeah. George Washington. I mean, if you look at the Revolutionary War against the British Empire, I mean that was a lot of bloodshed in itself. If you look at Abraham Lincoln, I mean, close to 1 million Americans, both in the North and South, died as well. So, you know, Trump. You know, I mean, every great president has the capability of. You look at throughout history, not just those two, you know, if you look at World War II, there are presidents that had a lot of deaths on their hands as well. But I mean, we all kind of have to ask ourselves that question. It's like, you could be a really great president in a serious time where there's a lot of killing and death. But I mean, in regards to the COVID vaccines, I mean, there's pretty plausible evidence to suggest that this was in the works for a very long time. It just needed a trigger, it needed funding, and it needed to be rolled out in a cooperative agreement through most of these states. I mean, even though you see a lot of red in these counties, I mean, they still locked down to some degree or had some type of. It depends on how long they were locked down for and what kind of measures they were taking. But a lot of these blue areas did take it very seriously in a way where you had to have proof to even buy food, to even do basic things. I mean, like, you know, besides having your job, you know, source of income, to travel, obviously, we all know this. But, you know, from the very start of it, China was ground zero for COVID. But in regards to the vaccine, I mean, America was ground zero for the vaccine development. And that's the question we all have to ask ourselves. And I don't have the answer for that, and maybe you guys do, is, you know, every country received a vaccine. The question is, are they all the same vaccines? So
that's a good question.
Look at our adversaries, Iran, China, Russia, right? We like to think of them as our enemies, but they all did take a vaccine, and they might have not taken an mRNA one, but what type of vaccine did they take? And is that wreaking havoc on their country? I don't know the answer to that. Maybe you guys do, but that's another great question. And also, Trump took a vaccine and a booster as well. And Biden is, I don't know how many he's up to, maybe 6, if that's even a thing. And Fauci said as well, he's on a 6th booster. And who knows if these guys are actually taking this stuff?
No.
But I mean, you have to ask yourself that question too: is, you know, are there placebos involved? But I mean, you got to ask yourself a question: is they had one point in time to inject
100% verified that certain batches were in fact a saline solution. 100% verified.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
they couldn't even mass produce the actual bioweapon fast enough. So yeah, that I believe is one of the strategic kind of plans, as a shutdown, because they kind of. And I believe that was the whole kind of even stance for Trump to even combat the shutdowns, bring back the economy, get the world going again, because we were heading in a horrific direction that, you know, so yeah, Project Warp Speed, right? And force their hand to where they couldn't even produce the actual harmful. So there's a lot of things that ultimately we don't know, but that's we can acknowledge something with that. That's not how things should be operating in this country. It's like our own government has weaponized itself against we the people. It knows everything about us. We know nothing about it. And that's where we need to gain the keys back to the stinking country. And we should eradicate all that secrecy and actually get to the bottom of these things. So it almost does become irrelevant. Some of these stats, some of these things, it's just like we can acknowledge the corruption. We can acknowledge that none of this was any good because the reporting on ivermectin and HCQ, and you could just see we didn't need this vaccine. This bioweapon was good for no one. And now with RFK and so many other big voices out there, they're actually exposing the whole childhood vaccine schedule. We got to abolish it all and rebuild it brick by brick because so many things. I mean, and are we surprised? Are we surprised? The health industry in this country has been about money, power, control over health and wellness. And if we can't see that at this point, then there's a disconnect. I don't know that it could be fixed. We got to sound the alarm in such an effective way because the time is right now. I'm just, the information's out, right? People need to do their research. They need to source it to even understand as to the sense of urgency and the responsibility we all have to ensure we got to put a stop to the worst things. I even have a clip queued up already sounding the alarm on worse things coming down the pipe, folks. Worse things than COVID, okay? That was the biggest distribution of wealth. They are now putting that money to use in a way we can't even comprehend, and it's going to be way worse. So there's a unification that needs to take place in this country and others and eradicate this tyranny, this corruption, gain their freedoms, and we must put a stop to this type of biowarfare. Period. Full stop.
I have a comment. And then I want Scott to ask his question after my comment, and then after that, let's talk about some stuff that we've seen. But my comment goes back to Lucas. Kind of reminded me of this when he was talking. But so during the time of the lockdowns, right? And now there's been a lot of information coming out about the mRNA technology and nanobots within the vaccines. And if you do your research, those nanobots through the 5G technology can actually get signals sent to them where they can actually start growing or I guess reproducing, multiplying, and doing things through signaling through the 5G. So just remember, do your research, one. Two, while we were actually all in lockdown, that's when all those towers went up. So let's not forget that those towers went up while everybody was locked down in their house. Let's not forget that, because that's going to be at some point about that, because we had the lockdowns. There was the fake testing protocols through the PCRs, right? And then the exaggerations of the deaths, and then the bioweapon itself, right? Possibly with the nanobot technology in there, which I think I would say is proven by now. And then you have to remember those 5G towers that were all set up, basically when nobody was paying attention. Because
I'm so glad you brought that up,
Let's not
John.
forget about that, right? Scott, go ahead and ask your question, brother, unless you guys have any comments on that. But other than that, go ahead, Scott.
James, just real quick, when you mentioned about the pharmaceutical and health insurance and all that stuff, but did you also mention different types of medicine, homeopathic medicine and things of that nature?
Mm-hmm.
What doctors have you been looked into to go that route versus the pharmaceutical route? And is there anything out in Arizona or your neck of the woods that does provide that for people versus the pharmaceutical side of things?
Yeah, AZ Good Health. I'd plug them. They're in Tempe, Arizona. I'd plug Unchained Wellness. I'd even plug Pure Benefits. They have an MD there that is entirely awakened, and she is nearing her retirement, but that is where they get more bold, because they're no longer necessarily scared of that that degree, that whatever accreditation being held over their heads and no longer able to practice. But they do fear that their lives and their family lives could be under threat, because there's a multitude of doctors and individuals that really came out heavy hitting during this time, and so many of them, and I have it on another episode, met a very strange death. And I feel convicted that they were suicide. They were shut down prematurely and shut up prematurely so they could keep this momentum going. It's so freaking clear. We are up against such an evil here. But I like John's point that he did bring up frequencies, because I still to this day define COVID. I have yet to see proper scientific proof that they've isolated any of this in the wild off of a table surface out of the air, because it's all using PCR testing, which is defective. So it's a way of verbiage. As far as these variants are concerned, there can only be so many coincidences. The next variant would come out shortly after the last, like X amount of time after their last shot, the last booster. And you look at the actual stats and the percentages of the individuals that were ending up sick, ending up hospitalized. It was mainly the wave of the last group that got those shots. So it seemed to me, common sense just told me that was what was behind this next wave of illness that they were chalking up as a new variant due to defective PCR testing. So I love the idea of humbling yourself, questioning everything, and trying to get to the bottom of what is in fact impacting folks. And so many people to this day are still dealing with long haulers symptoms. Well, they've actually in science, like they've literally mimicked all the COVID symptoms through frequency warfare. For example, just ramping up 4Gs, 5Gs, things to that nature have caused every single one of the COVID symptoms. There's individuals that have proven that. So in my eyes, the detrimental, I think it's a multitude of attacks. I mean, we're very, very visual creatures. Frequency is a tough one to get people to on board, but let's just do this real quick. It's in one of these right here. Yeah, no doubt. How I imagined evil as a kid, how it actually looks now. And we could go into every one of them demons right there. Yeah. But believe your eyes for a second, folks. Come on. I know this is kind of a little off topic, but it's all relevant. Now, I have video footage of these jets hitting the shutoff switch or running out of their juice that they're spraying us. Yeah, but we got to look into all aspects as to what could be continually diminishing us. And just to throw out there, couldn't it potentially be the very next variant, monkeypox or whatever next thing they want to stand up? Could it be integrated into these sprays? The simple fact that we didn't have a say, that we haven't been brought into the know, because it's indisputable, folks. This right here cannot happen by their definition of a contrail. This cannot happen. It cannot streak and span the whole sky. You gotta, I don't get it that people they're seeing these and they're questioning themselves whether they seen them as a kid or not, because we more so didn't, not to the extent that it's happening now. Yep. But this is a very cheap and easy way of getting to us, our air, and there's so much behind it. So we got to start waking up. Like, let me throw an analogy. I've never done this one before. Yes. What's that? All right, I'm going to continue. So,
Also, you can throw your analogy in a minute, but also with the hold on with the chemtrails. Real quick comment is even with the chemtrails going down, that's another form of warfare because they could have easily spread the COVID-19 through the chemtrails
100%.
and then just threw up and then misconstrued it on a bat, and then now all of a sudden everybody's getting sick. It's another thing. But go ahead with your comment, bro.
Folks, fully absorb this, okay? Sit on this and fully absorb this, because this very image right here, this very footage, I'm telling you, this is proof. This cannot happen. This right here answers the question. And the thing is, this isn't doctored footage, anything like that. I've actually captured this very event happening in my skies here, where it started and stopped, okay? And so it's no longer a question if we're being sprayed. Let this sink in. We are being sprayed. So let your questions transition from if we're being sprayed to what are we being sprayed with. And when you actually watch Frankenstein's on Rumble, it will answer this question very definitively for you and how damning it is. And it's taking away our abilities, our mental acuity and clarity, and ramping up Alzheimer's and all these other illnesses that are going to diminish us to no longer pose a threat to this two-tiered infrastructure. There's a reason, and you do not have to take all of our words for it. There's a reason as to why. I mean, we could go into it. Like, these is actually how the demons look. You could read the New World Order. One world government, one world cashless currency, one world central bank, one world military, the end of national sovereignty. That is insane. There goes our freedoms. The end of all privately owned property. The end of the family unit. Right here, depopulation control. We'll stop right there. You could look into it for yourself, but you don't have to take our word for it, okay? Let me play this one clip, and I want to use the analogy. We'll do it right now real quick. Imagine you come home and you find out that your babysitter, in fact, started poisoning your children in their food and water. Are you not going to do anything about that? Are you going to report them? Yes, you are. You're going to get involved. You're going to get the authorities involved. So just because it's happening on a mass scale, this type of poisoning of your children and you're not going to do anything about it? You're scared? You're fearful of the truth? This type of information, because we're such visual creatures, exposes and helps us actually humble ourselves on the vaccine side of things. The fact that we couldn't be in hospitals as our loved ones died, that type of separation, you know how many of them got reported as malnourished? They didn't even have proper hydration. The most basic healthcare fundamentals, our hospital protocols, murderous hospital protocols, killed them. So just to jump back to the NIH, yes, they run on a title of the 2 drugs reducing risk of Ebola, but the Ebola trial, in fact, killed over 54%. They say around about 50 in this article, but others went into it deeper. Over 54%. And it became the gold standard for COVID protocol. That is what murdered your family members in hospitals. And the hospitals were freaking incentivized. Some states in the tune of over $300,000. Some reported over $400,000 for your family member's death. That is unacceptable, and they wouldn't allow actual life-saving care in there. Now, don't take my word for it. Let me go ahead and change the audio so I could just play this last clip, and I'm going to kind of shut up, folks, because I do not want to monopolize this episode. These gentlemen have so much powerful truth to expose with you here today. But don't take my word for it. You can hear it yourself right here.
Now, the world today has 6.8 billion people. That's headed up to about 9 billion. Now, if we do a really great job on new vaccines, healthcare, reproductive health services, we could lower that by perhaps 10 or 15%.
Well, common sense would tell you if you have a man standing in front of you saying he's going to reduce the world's population by 10 or 15% using vaccines, what does that mean to you? It means somebody's going to die because you put a vaccine in them. It doesn't mean you're going to save people. That's pretty much common sense in my brain. But yet I saw him say it. He said it. And here we are.
Unbelievable. Are we not willing anymore to actually see what we see? Are we not willing to hear this very episode? Whether you're a loyal listener, we appreciate you, and don't mean to be crazy repetitive for you, but the reality of it is we're not waking up fast enough. We're not providing the solutions fast enough. So we must get this word out. And that's the frustration I'm now currently experiencing, because I see men like this, selfless men showing up on your behalf, and not enough civilians and individuals are getting behind, even supporting them. What is it? What's the disconnect? What are we failing at? What could we do better? We genuinely need your comments, your likes, your everything. Give us the input to become more effective.
There's a comment in the page from Mongo9584. It says, February, March of last year, I went into the hospital with the muscles in my eyes that swelled up and about blinded me about 8 months after a booster. So we got a comment in here saying that.
Wow.
I mean, this is what goes on. So just from my personal experience, I've seen military members as old as my children in their 20s roughly on their hands and knees begging not to get this thing, and they were forced into do it. And some folks have adverse reactions to it. Some folks' health is compromised completely. Some have tumors and things of that nature and had to get out on a medical waiver, and there's no compensation for this whatsoever. These people that are military brothers and sisters who serve their country and everything were coerced against their will. And James, it goes right back to what you were saying. I think the main thing is fear. So when they put that fear into people, they feel that they have no other recourse but to comply to these things, to where they should stand up, and we should all stand up united and fight against it and say, no, we're not doing this.
I like what Brad Miller said in that fantastic episode. He brought in history to the equation on a multitude of unacceptable, egregiously unacceptable outcomes in propagandist narratives, and how that's still kind of the general narrative in this country and across the world, and how we accept that. Like, we have an opportunity to actually shift because history would say we don't do anything about it. History would say we don't hold those that imposed this level of death, this level of genocide, this level of crimes against humanity, because the reality of it is there's no protections. I don't care what the government gives these pharmaceutical companies or the doctors or any of this. Are you kidding me? There needs to be military tribunals or civil tribunals regarding these situations, and we have the information, and we could ensure this never happens again. And in fact, this could be a great blessing, because in fact, we could rule out the corruption, because our government, it's no secret, it's not operating on behalf of we the people. In fact, they've spoke out on it and threatened we the people, and they've been coming after us. There's no responsibility with the spending, all these things, the invasion, everything that's happening is to break the patriotic backbone of this country and take over. Once again, I mean, we could just pull up real quick. You do not have to take our word for it. When you look into the World Economic Forum and you look into these individuals, like right here, Klaus Schwab's puppet Harari stated repeatedly, guys, repeatedly, not once, that humans are now considered hackable animals. I believe so many of us have been hacked. The ones that have lost discernment or rational thinking are just running, regurgitating talking points, emotionally charged, polarized to the point we can no longer have discussion. That's it. That's proof of a hacked animal, a human being. I don't want to refer to him as animal. We are spiritual beings, but humans are no longer seen as possessing free will. This is quotes. Rather as entities that can be re-engineered and controlled. Right here, Great Reset. You will own nothing and you will be happy. And it talks about genocide and the predictions for the world. Look up the Agenda 2030. It's, oh my gosh. It is the actual numbers, folks. What type of delusion are we living in? The actual numbers is in the millions, okay? The actual VAERS reporting system is accounting for more deaths on this single vaccine rollout than all other vaccines combined since the reporting system even began. How is that acceptable? Harvard study comes out and shows that the actual VAERS reports is showing less than 1% of the actual numbers. It is a number of genocide we can't even accurately account for just in the way it is impacting our fertility, period. Like this is horrific, folks. Oh my gosh, the numbers are bad. So anyway, I digress. I'm charged
And
up.
James, that's the actual
Enough is enough.
That is the actual vaccine adverse event system that they're using. That's the government's own system showing all these adverse reactions to vaccines. So with that being said, let's jump into some vaccine injuries. I know I talked to you offline, and you know, I know a few vaccine injured soldiers that you know, if you go back to my videos, or you may know. Well, before I say that, I want to apologize to anybody watching if there's any lag or anything going on. So we're sorry about that. There's always some technical issues when you go live. Also, I want to say, if you guys, anybody watching, if you have a question, go ahead and type that down in the comments, and we'll go ahead and get to those as well. But let me get back to what I was talking about. You know, I think I'll let Scott go next, and then Lucas, and then James, you can go last. To tell your story or stories. But as far as vaccine injured, you know, I know, you know, a veteran, Chaplain James, he was vaccine injured. He was deployed. You know, he was told if he didn't get this shot, he would be court-martialed. He wouldn't be allowed to go back home from deployment. He got the vaccine. And then I think it was a few weeks later, he had some sort of heart issues. He ended up getting a pacemaker put in. And then, he had a long road. And as a chaplain, they wouldn't let him get a religious exemption, which is horrific. And then I know another soldier who I'm getting ready to do a podcast with soon. He has a couple of family things going on. He's just getting out of the military, but he took the vaccine 2-3 years ago while in service, and he has a multitude of medical issues now, and the Army itself is like, oh, it's all in your head, you're having mental issues, you're not really vaccine injured, and so they refused to accept that the vaccine injured him, even though the day after he was vaccinated, he was feeling ill, feeling sick. He told his commander, and I think he was a sergeant at the time, he was a supply NCO, and the commander's like, well, go home, you don't feel good, get some rest. He's like, all right. So he started driving home. Well, on the way home driving, he passed out driving, right? Luckily, he didn't get into any accident or anything, but he woke up in an ambulance hooked up full of stuff. So he was having heart issues, and they tested him for drugs because, you know, they figured, hey, you're doing drugs or something. He's like, I'm not on drugs, I'm in the military. But, you know, they tested him anyways, and, you know, but it was all due to vaccine, but, you know, they wouldn't. You know, if you mention that, you know, you're not part of the narrative, and there's something wrong with you, and you're crazy. And I'm either, you know, committed suicide or it's under investigation, and, you know, you never hear about it again.
Yep.
Go ahead, Scott. You got anything?
No, I just I already just said my piece about it, and I've told my story a lot, as well as everybody else on here and everything. We just want to reach out to everybody and let them know this is the platforms that we're, talking to folks about to tell their stories as well. We've told our stories.
You got any comments on that, Scott?
No comments at all. Like I said, I've been, with you with this, and the fact of the matter is to get, people out there to stand up and come out and speak about their stories as well. We've already told ours numerous times. It's time for the American public to come out and tell their stories as well. And we have both platforms here that are allowing those people to come and do that. And I like to kick it over to Lucas because he's been sitting there, and I know he wants to say a couple things, so I'm done here.
Yeah, I'm on the same page as Scott. It would be nice to have people that are currently serving to grow a pair and to come out and talk about the vaccine causing
or even the civilian, the rest of society.
Yeah, it's hard to believe. I mean, it first went to, we're doing this to help people, and it's the right thing to do, and don't be selfish, just take it. And now it's kind of, everyone's kind of living in denial until they get injured, and then it's, oh my gosh, I'm injured, I need help. No, you're not injured. It's not because of what you took. You don't want to take accountability for it, and people don't want to live in a reality where they actually hurt other people. They gave the order and they hurt them, and they don't want to live in a reality where they've hurt themselves and each other. It's just such a hard reality to live in. And I get that. If I was in that position, I would probably, I'm going to be honest, I'd probably do the same thing. I would live in denial, and that's what everyone's doing. So we have to break that. And that's all I have to say.
Wow. That's powerful, Lucas.
Yeah,
I would
bro.
challenge any of them listeners.
We're about to get to James.
All right. Thanks,
hey, brother. So this is what we're here for. We want to hear these things and from society and other people, not just in the military. We want you to stand up and be brave and speak the truth and say what's on your mind. And that's what James is doing. He's unmuzzled, and he's going to tell you like it is. But we want the normal, everyday individual to come out and do the same thing. Because like I said, by the time something happens, that's when your eyes are going to wake up. When you get vaccine injured, when your loved one dies right after a vaccine, they just don't wake up for some reason, or they get cancer down the road and you don't even, say, oh, the vaccine caused the cancer because it's 2 years later. So you're not going to know that. You're just going to, oh, he's got cancer. By the time something happens to you and that's going to wake you up, guess what? It's too damn late. It is too damn to wake up, understand what's going on, start talking about it, start fighting back legally, right? Which, there's a lot of organizations trying to do this, but we need the people to back us up. So with that being said, I'm going to give it over to James.
Thank you, fellas. I appreciate each and every one of you, everything you're doing. You are true warriors. I just hope the listeners can understand that and start supporting you guys to become more effective. And on these digital platforms, that is through shares, likes, comments, subscriptions. You get it. And bringing people more, not, ripping your muzzle off, not living out of fear. I'm trying to remember the point Lucas was touching on. Okay, yeah. Regarding folks, excuse me, whether you yourself or someone, I just want to bring that invitation on a level. Just know, if you want anonymity, you're not comfortable video recording, that's fine. We could do a recorded phone call and keep anonymity, because I do know in some of these situations like mine, for certain families, it's almost ended up this division between the vaccinated and unvaccinated. And we need to break that. We're family. We need to be unified. And ignorance is not going to lead to a blissful outcome. If someone's got the actual harmful bioweapon jab and not the saline solution, I'm not here to cast stones at you. To Lucas's point, I more than likely would have made the same decisions walking in your footsteps. But to stay ignorant to the turbo cancers and things of that nature that are on the rise, that this undoubtedly is linked to, there are doctors such as Dr. McCullough and so many individuals coming out with amazing protocols that are eradicating the spike proteins in an effective way and becoming life-saving. Okay. So this not only could be beneficial for you, this could be beneficial for those you're spending intimate time around and with the shedding factor. So I challenge you to just get more informed and gain your health back. And once again, we could have you on just a recorded call. So for me,
James, real quick. So Mongo also stated that they did hundreds of blood tests on me, all came up negative. They still don't know what caused it. The immune system was attacking my eye muscles. I am still on meds. That's what he just said in the comments.
Well, I'd say source your doctors. You need to find ones like they're all over too, but they're more so going to be on the free speech platforms. I know a lot of patriots. Stu Peters has a whole bunch on. Charlie Kirk. So I feel like I have connections to reach out on. There are hubs, and there will be more hubs. You just stay tuned. We're going to be even bringing some on. But to even get doctors' recommendations, if you even reached out to Unchained Wellness or AZ Good Health or Pure Benefits, they may have some sources for you there locally that could actually provide solutions and recognize what is actually causing this. So for me, I only know individuals that was through extended relations I know in my life that actually died during the COVID pandemic, but they all died in the hospital beds. They died from the remdesivir, the vent, the murderous, incentivized hospital protocols. I knew no one that died on the street. When it comes to the shot, I have personal individuals in my life, family members, that I saw a shift in them. And I want everyone to know, I'm not here to cast judgment. I just want to get to the root of the issue. But what happened with my grandpa and my grandmother is undeniable. From the time they were coerced and manipulated into getting this as though it was a life-saving treatment, I saw that true intended consequences happening really quickly. Because two seemingly, yes, healthy, more elderly individuals, though, never had a heart issue, never been hospitalized over heart issues, things like that. As soon as they got them, those hospitalizations started happening. And the clotting and all these issues. Mm-hmm. And personally, I mean, it seemed as though my grandpa was more so struggling than my grandma initially, but my grandma succumbed to this bioweapon the way I see it. And it's one of those things, like, I don't know how we're living in such denial. Maybe because we're on the advocacy side of getting it. We thought we were duped. That's the thing. You got to understand. I'm defective. I've been duped. There's a lot of things I'm still working out. That's where it's healthy to question things. So I'm not demonizing any individual and their stance. Evil has been very effective with its war tactics. We've been blindly entrusting these institutions for far too long, not truly acknowledging how they were operating and how bad it's actually gotten. But I mean, they say we're a bunch of useless eaters. You heard Bill Gates himself. He was behind the jab, folks. He was a heavy advocate. And he says if we do a really good job through health services, healthcare, and vaccinations, we could actually lower the world population by 10 or 15%. Once again, common sense would tell you that isn't health services. That isn't life-saving care. That's genocidal weaponry. That's what it is. So we got to be able to acknowledge, because to us, words mean something. It's supposed to. So we're taking people at their words as though it's help. But you got to understand, this is genocidal, and it's simple. People are like, well, why would they blah, blah, blah. It's simple. There's a two-tiered infrastructure happening in this world around us. For the elites to establish their tyrannical rule, they need to lower the population. It has nothing to do with global warming. It has nothing to do with these other things. They have to lower the world population to a more manageable level to secure their spot, especially with information like this getting out, exposing and speaking truthfully of their agendas that they themselves speak out. So you don't have to take our word at it. We need to acknowledge what's truly going on, humble ourselves, realize that we ourselves got duped, and we may have even attributed to their lies, their gaslighting, their manipulative regime that has been far too effective with each and every one of us. So I'm not here, once again, to cast stones, but I saw the shift with my own grandparents. My grandma, unfortunately, no longer with us. And it was horrific to see the quality of life from what it was before the shot, what it became after the shot. And undoubtedly, in my mind, I am convicted that it shortened her time here with us on this earth. And my heart goes out to my grandpa, because the years that they've been together, I can't imagine. I can't imagine. But he himself is fighting for his life to this day. And more than likely, yes, it's going to shorten his time here with us. I speak out on this solely. My intent is so we can grasp and and live out healthy lives. That is the intent. You know, people want to take offense. People want to get all riled up. That's the problem. We got to speak frankly, unmuzzled. We need to do proper biopsies, things of that nature, get real doctors able to identify the actual roots of the issues to ensure we really expose this for what it was. And it's not just my family. I know direct individuals in my lives where all 4 of their grandparents died from this shot. And it's not just the elderly. There's a lot of children that have succumbed to that bioweapon jab. There's a lot of children that are struggling for their life to this day in any age bracket. It really seemed like a roll of the dice. Some of these were highly charged, filled with real biowarfare, and then some had the saline. So we need proper momentum to get to the bottom of all these things. And frankly, I am sick and tired of seeing Americans going about their lives delusionally as though they could live a life of normalcy without addressing these issues, all the attacks, because it's not just the jab. The thing is, just to sound the alarm on it, they've integrated this RMNA technology successfully, reported in lettuce, tomatoes, tobacco products. They're trying to integrate it undoubtedly into mosquitoes and insects, into water, into our air. So if we don't take this serious now, the freedom of choice is out the window. We cannot fend all that off. So we have a window of opportunity. The sense of urgency should be, we all need to do what we can right now. We need to blow up this episode as big as we can. Not even for me, for the forgotten soldiers, everything they're exposing, to secure our future, to secure our health, so we can actually live out our purpose in this existence.
Hey, James, I also want to touch on one more thing, too. It's not just the COVID anymore. that it's getting into. Now it's going to be put into all the other vaccines as well.
Yes.
You can talk about flu.
Hey, brother, I got a comment and a question.
All that stuff too. So all that stuff, they're integrated into everything.
Go ahead first.
So eventually it won't just be the COVID anymore. It's COVID, flu, Hep A, Hep B, and all the other vaccines they're giving our kids that this mRNA technology is going to be in. So we need to really, step up and keep pushing until we find out what these answers are. We definitely do know that it was blood money, you know what I mean? And it hurt the entire country, from American citizens, military, police officers, fire department, paramedics, doctors, and nurses who stood up as well. I also want to say thank you to Mongo 9584 for stepping up and putting some comments on here for us too. Thanks.
Yes. What do you have, John?
Yeah, brother. So you bringing up the children, right? So, the vaccine's approved. What you do, which it's first of all, before I get to my other comment, it's approved under a false pretense. It's all. It should have never even went to EUA status, right? Because there's already a hydroxychloroquine, ivermectin, so there's already a prophylactic for COVID-19, which was suppressed by the media. Therefore, if they would have used a hydroxychloroquine, etc., that EUA status would have never came out. So they suppressed it so they could illegally push out their EUA so that they could illegally get an approval, which the whole process was illegal, right? Even through all the trials and everything they did, it was all pushed out illegally, right? Yeah. Now, with that being said, the children, right, like you had mentioned, people don't understand. It's still under emergency use authorization. If you are 10 years old and younger and you're vaccinating your children thinking it's an approved vaccine for COVID-19, if you look it up on the CDC website, right, it's still under emergency use authorized.
Yeah.
And
you know what?
But if you believe in it, if it's approved and you believe in it, go ahead and do what you want to do. I caution you. But for your children, 10 and younger, yes, it's still EUA. And
you know what?
The question I had for you, James, so your parents or your yes, grandparents, they had passed away, you believe, from the protocols within the medical facility. Did they pass away inside the facility, and were you able to see them and give your goodbyes and all that? And I'm sorry for your loss too, brother.
No, I appreciate that. I mean, the intent obviously is just to gain our health. I noticed a profound shift. It is undeniable from when they took the shot. Both my grandparents, I saw them a little while. I didn't see them frequent enough. They're in a state away. But when I saw them beforehand, all there entirely. They're getting older and slowing down a bit, but they're all there, both of them. And what really, like I said, surprised me was hearing about all the hospitalizations of my grandpa since then. I didn't know if I was going to have the opportunity to see him again or not. But when I saw them both, I couldn't. It was interesting. It was like I was standing in front of my grandma, but I wasn't. It was like she was there, but not there. It was a totally different, and this was after the shot. And she didn't last too long after that. And my grandpa is still with us, but he's in communications. It's impacted him in a similar manner. I love him to death. They're amazing individuals, and my heart just goes out, obviously, to whether they, individuals have lived out their full life or not. The way it is impacted the quality of their life and undoubtedly shortening it is horrendous. And we must acknowledge biowarfare when it's freaking biowarfare. and you can see the intent when you actually tune in and you hear it for themselves. We're a bunch of useless eaters. Klaus Schwab, the World Economic Forum, they value cattle more than human life. They've chosen their God in this existence, and it's the one that gives them the money they want, the control and the power in this existence. They don't see past this existence and what our loving Creator provides. And I do call upon more Christians to get engaged and stand up. We're going to be doing more call outs to even organized religion, because they have caved in a huge way. Maybe it's our 501c3 status, but there's communications that have been exposed where the government has, in fact, let's just say, infiltrated a lot of our organized religion. And if the church has actually loved you and cared about your congregation and your well-being, they wouldn't sell out. Even to their shutdown, they would show up and speak truth. So let me just play this snip, because this actually hit me pretty profoundly earlier. And let this be a pre-warning as far as what to expect, what's coming next, what's coming down the pipe. This was very alarming. So let me do the audio, take off the echo, so we won't be able to communicate till we play this, but give this, folks.
On August 30th, the FDA gave extended clearance for the smallpox vaccine AMCAM 2000. It is the second smallpox vaccine to be approved for use for monkeypox. Both Jynneos and AMCAM 2000 have been stockpiled by the hundreds of millions in the National Strategic Stockpile. So in light of this extended FDA clearance, I'd like to share a couple snippets from the AMCAM 2000 vaccine insert. I shared this back in 2022, but it's definitely relevant now that they're going to be administering AMCAM 2000 to high-risk individuals for monkeypox. And like all other vaccines, AMCAM 2000 comes with a laundry list of adverse effects, including encephalitis, myocarditis, but there's something at the bottom of the insert that you don't see with most vaccines, and that is, and I quote, death to unvaccinated individuals who have contact with vaccinated individuals, end quote. The AMCAM 2000 insert goes on further to state that individuals who are vaccinated with this vaccine should basically quarantine for 4 weeks after injection. They should not handle babies, be around pregnant women, go swimming, be in a hot tub, use a public restroom, rub or touch the vaccination site, share a bed, clothing, or close contact with an unvaccinated individual, be around anyone who has eczema or other autoimmune issues. Now, how many people who take this vaccine are going to basically self-isolate in their house for 4 weeks so as not to infect anybody else? The insert vaccine may in fact spread the smallpox virus to other people.
Wow.
We're all screwed.
You can read it for yourself, folks. Death of unvaccinated individuals who have contact with these vaccinated individuals. This was something on a biological warfare scale. I was concerned out the gate. I was like, there could be a type of, yes, as horrific as the COVID bioweapon is, as horrific as it is, and the outcome is it could potentially provide some type of protection for their next thing to actually kill off the unvaccinated. Are you getting the sense of urgency to stop all biowarfare, to shut down these labs, these evil individuals that want to eradicate 7.5 billion, genocide 7.5 billion of the world's population to get it to a manageable 500 million as their manifestos with the Georgia Guidestones, Rothschilds, WEF, Bill Gates, all their puppets have stated. Unbelievable. They've said it themselves. Are you going to just sit back, becomes the question, and allow this experimental every biowarfare to happen to you and your children? Or are we going to unite while we have a chance to put an end to it?
I'm going to unite.
Yeah,
Thanks, fellas.
I stay united.
We got to end the disconnect. Like, what is it? Is it truly our delivery? We're not waking up fast enough.
That's the saying. United we stand, divided we fall.
Yep.
Yeah,
We need to start caring.
There's something else that was kind of, when you guys were speaking earlier, we were talking about individuals that, to reach out to us. And it's not just coming on our platforms and telling your story. Like James said, if you're not comfortable doing that, don't do that. But still reach out to us. You know what I mean? We'll exchange numbers. We'll talk. We'll have conversations. There's other things that can be done. Like, telling your story, getting the information out there. That's just a piece of trying to bring people together for a common goal, right? So even if we just talk on the phone and we exchange contacts, we exchange ideas, what can we do to stop this from happening? How can we engage the government properly? How do we do these things, right? I can't do it by myself. I can only do it if individuals reach out to me. Even if you email me and you don't want to come on the show, you just want to talk, and how can we engage? How can we help? How can we do, etc. That's what we need, right? That's what we need. We need participation in stopping, all these mRNA technologies, all the destruction of humankind, depopulation. We need to stop it, and we can't stop it by ourselves. We can't stop it if you're going to. And being silent, the opposite of that isn't coming on the podcast, which is great if you do. You can get your word out to more people. But even just getting in contact with me or Scott, even James, and just talking on the phone, not recorded, and just, hey, I'm here. This is me. I want to get involved. How can I help you out? And stop this shit from happening. And stop people from killing our kids, our grandparents, ourselves. It's genocide. That's what it is. And it's sickening.
It all boils down to also it's your First Amendment right, freedom of speech, to stand up. So by doing that, you're allowing them, the enemy, to win by silencing you or putting fear into you for not speaking out.
The worst type of censorship is self-censorship. We must get unmuzzled. That's why they're fighting so hard to, in fact, censor us. It's if I saw enough momentum, I think our delivery would be a little different, but we're sitting here sound the alarm. And in my eyes, your platform should be blown up to the millions and millions and hundreds of millions. And there should be momentum and organization, and everyone has their own unique gifts, to your guys' point, of showing up in effective ways. We need more individuals showing up. I don't know if you guys take any type of donations. It seems like you're just selflessly doing it, but Unmuzzled Chat sure needs them, and there's a way you could magnify what we're trying to do. Turning Point USA has big donors, and Charlie Kirk and all these other institutions. So your donations don't mean that much to those big organizations, but to fire up something like this to where we could bring a tech guru and make snips in effective ways to reach more people, save more lives, create more solutions. Financial is a big part of that. So if you got blessed, there's a way of doing it that way. If you don't have the finances, the shares, the likes, the comments, the reaching out, just to Scott's point, is a huge way of creating momentum. Your ideas, check out this organization. You could help link us up with more patriots, more individuals, more stories that will have the proper impacts we're looking to have on individual lives. So help us think outside of the box. Let's create momentum together. Hit the nail on the head with the united we stand, divided we fall. And we got to cut through that propaganda that's been weaponizing words to such an effective degree, especially in this country, creating such division. Too many red flags. Just, we're not gaining the proper momentum we need, and it's not happening fast enough. And I can see other things coming down the pipe. It's going to be horrific, folks. It's going to be terrible. Let's try to avoid that.
Well, I just want to appreciate you, James.
What I want to say is a quick little. Let's say a quick little comment. So, if you have a loved one that passed away during COVID-19, right? And I'm not saying the disease doesn't exist. I have no idea. But again, it wasn't isolated, so we don't have the proof and the documentation saying it does, right? Regardless of your belief on that, right? Ask yourself, was that individual vaccinated before they passed away, right? And then if they passed away in the hospital, right, check out the protocols they used in the hospital. They're getting incentivized to follow these protocols, right? And then if the individual passed away in the hospital and they're on remdesivir, go look up the issues with remdesivir, right? And start questioning these things. We don't have all the answers. We don't know exactly what's going on. We don't 100%, like, I can't put my life on it. Like, yeah, this is what's going on. But what we can do is we can talk to each other. We can have ideas, and we can ask questions. Because we're not going to ask questions and we're just going to follow the narrative, then we might as well just be slaves. That's it. But do some research and look into these things. Just because somebody's wearing a white coat and looks all professional and they have their last name and it says MD and all this shit, it does not make them, the know-all be-all, right? My doctor prescribed me a medication for some pain I was having, right? And I told my doctor, I said, hey, I'm having some liver issues. It's nothing too serious, but I'm having some liver issues. So my other doctor, my primary, right, was concerned about my liver. And so when I went to see another doctor for my pain, I told my doctor, I said, hey, I have some liver issues, so I don't want to take any medications that could possibly affect my liver. And he said, oh, no, you're good. This is fine. So I'm like, all right, cool. So I go home, right? I'm on the medication for a little bit, whatever. And then, I decided, hey, I'm going to look in and see what the side effects are to this medication that, the guy in the white coat, the professional MD doctor told me to take. So I'm looking at all the side effects of this medication. And guess what? It affects your fucking liver. So I told this guy to his face, I don't want the medication that affects my liver. He said, oh, no, you're good. Okay, well, I guess I'm not good because you're trying to fucking kill me. That's what you're trying to do.
Yeah,
so I had to stop the medication. I didn't see that piece of shit again because I refused to. Sorry.
Yeah, it goes back to informed consent. Everyone wants to patronize, the rapist, right? Informed consent. But I mean, there's informed consent with everything that you do. It's not just some type of, rapist perpetrator or whatever. I mean, the doctor is supposed to give you, a long list of, just like those commercials and the ads that you watch on TV. At the very end, they speed it up so you can't really hear what they're saying. But in regards to the COVID vaccine, they never even mentioned that at all. It was all redacted, and they tried covering it up for 100 years. And no one wanted to see the side effects on the paper because it was blanked intentionally on purpose. I mean, informed consent, like whatever you do, there's always a side of risk.
They knew all the side effects before the rollout. That's why they wanted to keep it from us, to your point, for 70 plus years.
Yep.
And that in and of itself becomes the proof we need on intent. It's not adverse effects, people. This was intended consequences on you and your loved ones. And we fell for their propaganda. We fell for the globalists' agenda of genociding us. We going to sit back and accept that outcome? Or are we going to change the trajectory of history on these egregiously unacceptable? Are we going to acknowledge this properly as fifth generation warfare for our hearts, minds, everything?
And I'll do the American public one more question. Whenever you go to these pharmaceutical areas, won't you check the ingredients and see what the side effects are of it? Do you want this chemical or drug in your body, and what is it going to do to you? That includes your children, if you're parents. That includes if you're taking care of your mothers and fathers at home, or your grandparents. That includes that too. What is in those pharmaceuticals? What are the ingredients in there, and what are the side effects of those? And do you want the people who you love to take these products? Bottom line.
If you gentlemen don't mind, to me, whether this resonates with your listeners and all, but I have received the best strength, the best clarity. I should have even spent time in the Bible prior to this episode, and when I hand it over to the Lord, I'm doing all I can in the mortal state. There's such a great gift with that. I know we have our traumas and life experiences that keep us from our loving creator, but let's acknowledge the evil one here loves to masquerade as though he's the loving creator. That's where we need to gain the proper discernment. And the only way I know through that is through prayer and individual time, like seeking clarification with the Bible. There's a direct connect to be had. And golly, if you feel God's love for you and each and every one of us, he loves us so freaking much. He's allowing all this to happen. He's pro free agency. Our free agency from individual and evildoers here are trying to take that away. So this is a good little read right here. It states trust. Share the load. Trust in him at all times, O people. Pour your hearts to him. Pour out your hearts to him. Excuse me. God is our refuge. That is Psalm 62:8. It's a little prayer, and it reads, I give you the concerns of my heart today, Lord. You know the burdens I am carrying right now. They weigh on my mind and turn my waking moments into chances to worry. I believe you are my refuge. I just have not allowed you to play that role when it comes to this particular worry. Why do I hold back so much? I want to trust you with everything in my life. Help me lighten my grip on matters of insignificance and in matters of great importance and spiritual weight. Let me be free to turn them over to you, my provider, my Lord, my rock. Amen. That's beautiful.
Amen.
He's there for all of us. And there's a bigger plan than what we're experiencing here. It's all biblical. It's all written out. This is spiritual warfare, folks. Time to gain the proper armor so we can walk in our free agency, tap into God's gifts for us. We ourselves will be the solutions, not just we need, but our children, future generations, everything. I even gravely question whether there'll be much future generation happening, considering the trajectory we're on. I appreciate you fellas for putting this together.
If somebody has anything else they want to get off their chest.
I'm good. I just want to say thanks to James and everything speaking out, and Lucas and John, of course. It's always good to have a good, conversation with all of you.
Yeah, you can never set proper expectations on meets like this. You just gotta let it rip,
Getting down.
Yeah, let's try to a little more positive.
So it's the horrible sight.
I don't have that gift either, but try to breathe some light and hope? Can we accept the responsibility with excitement we got to do our part, come what may? This is a mentality we need to have. If we save a life, we save a soul. Most importantly, that in and of itself, I truly believe, convicted, that's life's worth living in this existence. That one soul. God loves us that much. So let's fulfill our purpose here, because we are all visiting. And I love that humbling aspect, that humbling truth to this existence. When we step back, it kind of pulls us out of our own mortal flaws and own insanity, and we could show up with more strength and love on behalf of our brothers and sisters and become more effective. Yeah. Thank you, listeners, for tuning in. God bless you. God bless America. Until next time, from Unmuzzled, take care. I'll let you guys do your own closing statements.
John,
Lucas.
All right, and I just want to appreciate for the individuals that were watching live. Again, I want to apologize if there's any connection issues. We were having a little bit on our end. Hopefully it didn't transfer over, but we did the best we could with what we had. And, thank you very much. Appreciate it. And make sure that, you start doing your part and you start spreading the information. Reach out to me and Scott. And, I love you all, man.
Yep.
Lucas, anything?
Thanks for being here, Lucas.
I appreciate it. Thank you all again. You guys are the real heroes. Anyone that stands up is a hero in themselves. So I just have to salute all you guys. Take care, and may God be with you.
Right.
All right. Till next time, folks.